I need a pen, please. Yeah.
About there.
So I'm doing this bit. Conference. As we lost a lot of speaker time this morning, we are making some slight adjustments to the timings this afternoon to try and make sure we hear as many people as possible. We will start by taking more floor speakers, then we will take the local government speaker, then we will continue the debate on protecting communities, which will conclude with a speech by Andrew Gwynn at about 4:15. We will then hear from the First Minister of Wales, Curran Jones. We'll then have speeches from our General Secretary, Ian McNichol, and our party chair, Ian Lavery, who will both talk about the lessons of the general election, and we will be presenting awards to some of the best campaigning parties. Finally, we will receive the results of the ballot on contemporary issues priorities. If you have not yet voted in that ballot, you have until 3 p.m. to do so. We will now take more speeches on protecting communities. Can I see all those who wish to speak in this debate? Okay, can I take the gentleman over there with the red tie? No, with the glasses on. Some from the middle. Take the one with the red and the yellow thing. So the lady with the pink notebook here. Which one? I don't know which. Is he waving up? Okay, so I'll take the gentleman waving the red flag, the first person there. Yes, thank you. I'm only taking. Three speakers, and I'll call the next three after these speakers.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Conference. Andy Botham, ASLEF delegate. I'm a train driver, and I've been a train driver for over 25 years. And there's a debate going off in this country at the moment whether it's safe to run trains without a second person on the train. I'm not bothered about the debate whether it's safe. It is not safer. When you've got a 12-car train with over 1,000 people on there, paying the highest fares in this country, in Europe, for travelling on the train, surely we can afford to have one extra person on that train to help us. I concentrate on driving the train. That's what I do. I expect somebody there to help me do that and look after the passengers. And that's not only on the train, but on the stations, we need station staff. In the ticket offices, we need ticket office staff. It's a sheer disgrace when you've got women who are frightened to travel at night because they feel vulnerable travelling on public transport in the 5th richest nation on this planet. There's been a campaign from successive governments to ruin my industry, and it's time it stopped. Normally we come to this conference and we argue for the renationalisation of the railways. We've not got to argue for that this time. We know we've got it coming when we get re-elected. I would like to mention the fact that just before the last election, Chris Grayling, the Secretary of State for Transport, came to Derby, my city where I'm based as a driver, and spouted on about the fact that we were getting electrification and modern trains and a service fit for the 21st century. Then, the day that Parliament broke up this year, he cancelled the electrification of the Midland Main Line and the rest of it. I'm driving 40-year-old trains that aren't allowed to run on the system past 2020, and he says bi-mode trains are going to be better for us. No, they're not better for us. We've not got them. They're not invested in the system. Money's going out the window day in, day out. We're travelling around on antique trains, which if they're cars, they'd be classed as classic cars. We need investment in the industry. We need to do a system where we put new trains there, more stations, better staffed. The rest of Europe can do it. Foreign governments can own operating companies in this country, but we can't own them because of an Act of Parliament. It needs to change and end. We will fight and always fight to protect our industry, not for self-protection, but because we believe that the industry is worthwhile. What we also need to do is stop investing in self-driving lorries and invest in freight. Put freight where it's the greenest, the cleanest and the best. Let's bring the system back together where it belongs. Thank you.
Brilliant, they've lowered it because I'm only 4'11", so that's fantastic. I'm Michelle Beckett and I'm from Harrogate and Knaresborough CLP, and it's my first conference, so I'm very excited to be here. What I want to do is talk to you about something deeply personal. This year I was diagnosed with a condition called ADHD at age 44, which I've struggled with most of my life, and there were several missed opportunities by mental health services to support me in that. So you're probably sat there thinking, what relevance does this have to protecting our communities? Well, actually, rather a lot, and the statistics are quite shocking. I was shocked to read that 45% of youth offenders in custody have ADHD, often undiagnosed and untreated. 30% of adults in custody have untreated and undiagnosed ADHD. 25% of people with alcohol and substance misuse and addictions have ADHD. Just think about this as a social cost to the whole of society. So what can we do about this? How can we fix this? Well, actually, not a lot of people know that ADHD is one of the most treatable conditions that exist. It costs about £100 a month just to get medication. I've been on this medication since earlier this year and it has changed my life. So if we think there's 45% of youths in custody with ADHD, it costs £100 a month to treat them, and a New England School of Medicine study has just found out that treated with medication, it can reduce offending rates to between 32 and 41%. It costs about £85,000 a year to keep somebody in custody. This is not mentioning all the impact on policing, on education, on social services, not to mention mental health. There's all sorts of areas that ADHD touches. And at the moment, it seems to be lumped in with special educational needs to do with education. Most people with ADHD do not have special educational needs. The way to fix this is we need Labour to lead on an all-party parliamentary group to look at all the areas that we could make huge cost savings. I haven't done the maths, but just think £100 a month versus £85,000 a year for 45% of these youth offenders. Not to mention, as I said, all the savings that could be made. I've got a family member in CAMS who's undiagnosed. The problem is that even if you have an adult ADHD service, basically you can have to wait up to 3 years in your area. So I call upon Labour to start an all-party parliamentary group for ADHD alone so that we can make massive savings, not just financially, but to society as a whole. Thank you.
Can you put your hands up if you want to speak, please? The lady waving the pink, I think it's pink, it might be orange, I don't know. I could be colourblind. And the gentleman there with the leaflet. It would be good if I put my glasses on, maybe. And the lady at the back. Yeah, the one that's just turned around, yes, you. If you'd like to make your way down to the front and register, thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rehana Azam. I'm from the Gotham constituency, Manchester. It's my first ever conference as well, and I'm a youth delegate. My main concern, I'm an ambassador for National Health Service, NHS. It's a CCG Salford. I work very closely with refugees and asylum seekers. The main issue they face is mental health. Isolation and loneliness are some of the biggest impacts they have on their daily lives. And in terms of helping them and how we could do this, it's just difficult to fight that. As refugees and asylum seekers come new to the country, it's difficult for them to understand how the social side of things that work in the UK, because they can't speak the English or the language or be able to communicate with people. They like to stay indoors. Because of that, this is a barrier to them, and staying indoors, it makes it really difficult. The effect they have physically and mentally is some asylum seekers and refugees suffer from PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. It actually deteriorates further and affects the cost of the NHS. And because of that, it's just we don't have enough funding or the facility to help them. Once Labour gets in power, we would like them to invest in the NHS towards the mental health care. What Diane Abbott said before, that she'll be able to do what her team does together to focus on how people will be able to bring a new life into the UK and develop their futures to brighter futures. Because not everybody comes to the UK and knowing that they don't have the facility, or some people have just not had the chance, or they had the circumstances to come to the UK. And I feel that it should be changed and helping the people in our society and making them integrate better and be able to speak to people a lot more and be able to give them counselling service. Right, so that's the main thing, and I think that Labour should be in power in the next upcoming years, or months as well. Thank you.
Chair, Conference, Mike Edges, Unite, speaking on transport. Conference, getting our transport services right is vital for jobs, for families, communities, for the economy, for the environment and for social justice too. We welcome Labour's manifesto commitment to invest in a modern, integrated, accessible and sustainable transport system that is reliable and affordable. Tory policies on transport have failed. Relentless deregulation, privatisation and fragmentation. There's no way to run a public transport system. We need a major shift away from further privatisation and deregulation and towards more public ownership and accountability. Research by Transport for Quality of Life shows the best bus companies are municipal, run by local councils. Yet the government has driven through a ban on setting up any more. Labour opposed this at every opportunity. That's why we need a Labour government to put it right. The government's plans for rail pursue private profit at the expense of passengers and rail workers. So Unite welcomes Labour's commitment to bring public rail companies back into public ownership. But conference, I'm a taxi driver, and every day we face moves to deregulate and weaken our employment standards. Just look at Uber. Uber is a disgrace. So we praise the Mayor of London and TfL by putting the safety of Londoners ahead of big corporate interests by not renewing Uber's licence to operate in London. We condemn those employers who shamelessly dodge their responsibilities by classifying workers as self-employed. So we welcome the landmark Employment Tribunal judgment that Uber drivers are workers rather than self-employed. Drivers are entitled to holiday pay, paid rest breaks and the national minimum wage. Labour's manifesto commitment to reform the law on taxi and private hire services will introduce national standards to guarantee safety and access, keeping pace with technology. That's what we need. Finally, conference, we need a properly integrated transport system. Bus networks need to interlink with rail networks or park and ride. Public transport requires transferable ticketing and access to properly regulated taxis. Ports and airports need good road and rail links. The cycling and walking investment strategy needs to be delivered. Support a properly accountable, integrated and accessible public transport system. It's what our movement wants and it's what our country needs. Thank you, conference.
Conference. My name is Melanie Griffiths. I'm from COLNE Valley Labour. We've elected a Labour MP this time, overturning a 5,000 Tory majority. I'm a teacher and I just really want to speak for local accountability for schools. I know I was very pleased to see in the manifesto that that is what we're calling for, but I want people to understand that forcing schools to become academies and even trusts is taking schools out of the control of the local community. And I think people understand that now, but the Labour Party hasn't, I don't think, come out firmly enough yet against all academies. We're against new academies and we're for local accountability, but I would like to see all local councils coming out and saying, we are against academies, we want to see all schools taken back into local authority control. Because local academies and trusts, they're bad for everything. They're bad for pupils because all schools do is just try and pander to Ofsted. They don't do the best for their kids. They do what they think Ofsted wants. They also undermine teachers' paying conditions. If you're employed after a school becomes a trust or an academy, you're not on teachers' paying conditions. You can be asked to do all sorts of things that teachers shouldn't be doing, causing stress, causing, lessons are not the best if teachers are stressed. So we really need to call on, and I call on my own Labour Council to do this, come out and say academies are bad and really encourage schools not to do that anymore, not to become trusts, not to become academies, to stay so that local accountability can be foremost. Thank you.
Three more speakers, so can I see a show of hands, please? Beck's purple shirt, yeah. Oh, there's no name. So, the gentleman here. Oh, popular choice, yeah. And the lady right at the back there, right at the back.
That was a nerve-wracking minute. My name's Emma Seery, and I'm here to represent Bristol South CLP. Thank you, Bristol. We're a big gang. I'm up here in front of you all because I think that there is a fight that we need to be taking to the Tories. I think we need to be taking it to them now, because otherwise it's going to be too late. I think we need to be taking it to them now because the Tories are weak after our election success. This government is cutting local councils and local services to the bone, beyond the bone. We all know it's happening. They have slashed grants to local governments up and down the country in the name of austerity to irresponsible levels, forcing councillors, hard-working Labour councillors, to make difficult decisions with devastating consequences. Already this year, I think it was in February, 1 in 10 councils said that they were in danger of failing to fulfil their legal obligations to provide quality essential services at a local level. And sick and vulnerable people are at the most risk. So last week, a study showed that 1 in 4 social workers believe that the services that they are providing are no longer fair or safe because of the Tory cuts to local services. Cutting council tax reduction, cutting deprivation loans, closing libraries, closing leisure centres, closing shelters for homeless people and victims of domestic violence. This is what the Tories are forcing on local councils, and especially Labour councillors, by the way, because they're hoping they can pin this on us. They want to add insult to injury and make this a vote winner for the Tories. And it is our duty to fight back, and I think it's a fight that we can win as the Labour Party. We should tell Labour councils that they don't need to implement cruel and irresponsible Tory cuts. We should show ordinary people across the country that we have got their backs, we won't compromise on our principles, and we will not let them down. We should fight the Tories tooth and nail in Parliament. We should force them to find the money that we need for local services, like they managed to find the billion down the back of the sofa for the DUP to keep themselves in power. Thank you. This is my first conference. I know it was customary to say that at the beginning. I'm first time speaking. I'm flashing. I don't know how this works, but I wanted to say that in Bristol South, we put in an emergency motion to instruct the PLP and our leadership to do more on this issue to support local councils and local communities. And I really hope we get the chance to further discuss and pass that motion because we urgently need it now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Conference. Rebecca Barnes, Transport Salarised Staffs Association. I'm also a rail employee of 25 years. Rail privatisation doesn't work. Just look at East Coast. GNER went bust. National Express handed the keys back because they weren't making profit. Back in the public sector, East Coast made over $1 billion in profits, which goes back to the Treasury. And now Stagecoach, Virgin, are desperate for a way out. British Rail, for all of its faults, was an integrated system where all divisions, from signalling to call centres, from parcels offices to on-board catering, from carriage cleaning to track maintenance, from engineering to rostering, all working together, pulling in the same direction for service users. Today's rail system is a mash-up of private entities, some TOCs even owned by overseas governments. It's a defragmented, inconsistent, complicated and inconvenient money-making exercise for speculators and fat cats. All passing the buck and blaming each other, each pulling in a different direction. Fares rise year after year, which means in many cases commuters are paying more for a season ticket than for accommodation. Staff cuts is another profit generator. Cutting staff is inconvenient for passengers, stressful for other staff, and dangerous for all. Instead of being inclusive and moving in a forward direction, Britain's railways are actually discriminating against elderly and disabled travellers. Many aren't able to use self-service ticket machines or online services. Also, many stations still remain inaccessible. Staff cuts mean that the less mobile are forced to book assistance. This is unfair. There should be staff available to assist everyone, regardless of their needs. This system is grossly unfair. Cutting staff levels means that the staff that remain feel vulnerable and unsupported. Stress and mental health issues are commonplace. Staff sickness and fatigue are also on the increase. Staff regularly work full weeks of 12-hour shifts because vacancies aren't being filled. Staff feel obliged to make up for these shortfalls as they fear their job could be next in the firing line. Security is another serious issue. Following the Parsons Green terrorist attacks, security has been raised to Category B status on some of the busier stations in the London area. Meanwhile, the stations in between remain understaffed. The future for rail passengers is bleak. Already extortionate rail fares will continue to rise while staffing levels will continue to fall. Britain needs a safe, fully staffed and integrated rail system with realistic fares and accessibility for all before it's too late. Britain needs a Labour government that will bring back our railways into public ownership. TSSA would like to offer our thanks to Andy MacDonald for all his continued support. Thank you.
Chair, Conference, Ken Curran UNISON, a Housing Benefit Officer for almost 30 years. Our members in UNISON and in all the other unions and local authorities work hard to provide essential services in local government, driven by the public service ethos, whether they work for a council or a private contractor as I do. Often, the most essential services our members provide are the ones that aren't missed until they're gone. A safety net for the most vulnerable, those without a voice, those who are often not listened to. Services that look easy to cut, but which leave lasting scars on the communities that lose them. We've had 7 years of devastating cuts, billions of pounds taken away from local authorities, hitting the most deprived and the most vulnerable. Women fleeing violence turned away because the local refuge doesn't have enough beds. Neighbourhood policing disappearing, the local library closing its doors, social workers doing an already impossible jobs with workloads spiralling out of control, and teaching assistants made redundant. Elderly neighbours left to fend for themselves because social care is in crisis, and the Children's Centre cutting its hours, and worst of all, the appalling rise in homelessness in our cities and towns. It's taken a while for the full extent of the Tory cuts to make themselves felt, and it's been staff in local authorities who've been there trying to hold things together against the odds. 85% of local authorities have restricted eligibility for social care to substantial or critical. Around 400 libraries and many youth facilities depend on volunteers just to stay open. The numbers of people receiving Meals on Wheels has fallen by 67%, and 60% of councils have cut their funding for child and adolescent mental health services. And over 6,000 police community support officers have lost their jobs. And on top of this, we've seen 41,000 youth service places have been cut. Conference, it's sometimes hard to take these big numbers in, but under the statistics are real people's lives, often at the point where they have nowhere else to turn, often at a point of crisis. And the day conference is not far off, where local authorities will only start providing those services that they are legally required to. They've been put in this position by a Tory party that fundamentally does not believe in public services, or safety nets, or even the idea of society. And workers in local government have been pushed to the brink, asked to do the impossible for less and less, and they deserve better. They deserve a decent pay, and it's time to pay up now. Please support the campaign. Thank you.
Hands, please. The lady in the spotty top, yes? That's you, yes. The gentleman over there in the black T-shirt, shirt, whatever. Yes, you, yeah. And the lady here with the white leaflet.
Hello, conference. My name is Hilary Ackland, and I'm a delegate for the East Devon Constituency Labour Party. But here I want to speak as a Labour councillor for a division in Exeter on Devon County Council. Yes, a long way from home. I want to talk about local democracy. The NHS is a public service, but it's not locally, democratically accountable. Yes, we are a democracy, and the NHS is as a result of this, but it's controlled centrally by government, who gives authority to NHS England, who instructs the clinical commissioning groups, the CCGs. So it's top down to the CCGs, a bureaucratic structure. Social care is the responsibility of local government, and incidentally, around 30 million people in England and Wales have either a Labour councillor or a Labour mayor. The work of social services departments are democratically accountable for their actions to councillors and through them to the residents they serve. We want joined up thinking and working and integrated whole system approach to health and social care. However, there is a problem. County councils have health and wellbeing boards, and through them we bring together the health and social care. So we have a structure to talk strategy. But as a councillor, I have become very aware that these health and wellbeing boards have no teeth. And I wondered why. And then I realised the Health and Wellbeing Board is a site of a schism, a great divide, a clash between the bureaucratically managed CCG meeting the democratically accountable Devon County councillors. So we have a structure for integrated care, but not the system, not a system of democratic accountability. We should have more power and accountability of health at local level. So I say to the Labour Party, here's a challenge. How do we make the NHS accountable at local level? How can we make sure that health joins both public health and social care under the remit of local government? We, as elected representatives, want to do our democratically elected duty, save the NHS from privatisation and make integrated care a reality. So I call on John Ashworth and Andrew Gwynn to take up this challenge.
Good afternoon. Rosie Newbegin, Bedford and Kempston CLP, and we took Bedford and Kempston back from the Tories in June. Chair, comrades, access to justice and human rights are clear priorities in this section of the National Policy Forum report, but we need to go further. Comrades, for the 30,000 plus people a year detained in immigration removal centres, justice and human rights are being systematically and brutally denied. That's 30,000 people a year, many fleeing war, persecution, torture, or abject poverty, many making perilous journeys, detained in prison-equivalent conditions and without time limits on detention. The longest detention to date has been 4 years. 4 years, that's absolutely shameful. The majority of people detained are released back into the community. 84% of asylum-seeking women are released, including a lady called Mabel Gawanas, released in May this year from Yarlswood Immigration Detention Centre, which is just up the road from where I live. And it's a place that's been described by the Chief Inspector of Prisons as a place of national concern. So, not only are immigration removal centres costly, around £125 million a year, but with rich pickings for Serco and G4S, but they're also ineffective. Worst of all, they are brutal environments. Diane talked earlier about the Panorama programme on Brook House, IRC. The programme tragically coincided with the suicide of a young detainee at Harmondsworth, IRC, and it also showed the detention of a 14-year-old boy, despite the legal abolition of detaining children some years ago. Comrades, there is a better, cheaper and far more humane way to manage the immigration process. Women for Refugee Women, in their excellent report, The Way Ahead, set out a community assessment and placement alternative based on models including in Sweden. Conference, IRCs are an absolute stain on our national conscience and our global reputation. And detention action cite the fact that we have one of the largest detention estates in Europe. So come on, comrades, let's show our humanity. Let's show our resolve to protect all of our communities, including asylum seekers and refugees and migrants. Let's make the abolition of IRCs a campaign and manifesto priority. Let's be bold and genuinely transformational. Thank you.
Chair Conference, Tony Kearns, Communication Workers Union. I want to address the subject of the very important subject we think of climate change. If you look at page 29 and 30 of the National Policy Forum report that was produced, there's reference to the position taken by the National Policy Forum, and we welcomed the admission into the manifesto that addressed this issue. But up until this year, only 2 countries hadn't signed up to the Paris Climate Change Agreement to reduce carbon emissions by 2050. One was El Salvador, because he didn't think it went far enough and it wasn't enforceable, and the other one was Syria, for obvious reasons. But now the white supremacist in the White House has decided that climate change is not an issue. Climate change is an issue that threatens the future of everybody in this room, your children and your grandchildren, and we need to get a grip with it. The emissions target set for 2020 for the UK, we are on course to miss. That's a fact. The pressures that will come now, between now and 2050, will see industries change as the need to reduce carbon emissions and carbon reduction targets take place. We need a strategy. We need a strategy across all industrial sectors. But here's the important point. This is an issue that should not be left to corporations. My experience, our experience in the trade union movement, is when you leave these things to corporations to deal with, it is the workers who bear the brunt, it is the workers who get short shrift, and that must not happen in this debate. So what we're saying in this debate is that we want the Labour Party in opposition in developing its policy on climate change to work with workers and their representatives to make sure that there is a just transition, and to carry that work on when Labour is in government to ensure that there is a just transition. Because work will change, industries will change, and the people who deliver the carbon neutral future that we need to sustain this planet for future generations will be delivered by workers. And we have to add a class dimension to this. Make no apologies for that. We have to engage with those workers whose jobs will change. That transition needs to be just. We can't say that often enough. So climate change is coming. Climate change is the issue of our generation as far as the CWU is concerned. This is the planet we're going to leave to our kids and our grandkids. There's 2 ways of dealing with it. It can be done to the workers, or it can be done with the workers. We suggest it's done with the workers, because remember this, there are no jobs on a dead planet.
Nick, if you'd like to just come and register at the front. The lady with the blue top or scarf. Yes, you. Yes, you did.
Conference, Rehana Azam responding to the MPF report on housing, transport and local government. I'm proud to speak on behalf of GMB members across the public sector and a member of Darlington CLP. Conference, I don't need to tell you that the cuts to our public services have affected every part of our society. Those needing and using public services the most have been hit the hardest. Areas with the least have experienced the most brutal Tory cuts, and women have paid the highest price. It is vindictive, it is deliberate, and it makes me very, very angry. To put it in perspective, the cuts are worse now than they were under Margaret Thatcher. In fact, today, in 2017, we have proportionately fewer public sector workers since 1947. That's before Aneurin Bevan created our NHS. In local government alone, 800,000 jobs have been axed since 2010, and £5 billion robbed from wage budgets. As a result of campaigning from the Labour Party, the trade unions and the public, Theresa May has made a token gesture to prison and police officers. She now claims that the pay freeze has been broken. Well, don't believe a word of it. Asking them to accept yet more years of deflated pay, telling them there is now no new money, so they have to pay for it themselves out of their ever-depleting budgets. And you know what? Half of public sector workers are not even covered by an independent peer review body, so nothing for them neither. Theresa May claims she's listening. Well, unless she announces a real pay rise for all public sector workers at her conference next week, then we know she's not heard the message from our country. And I'm telling you, conference, November is far too late. The GMB's Pay Pinch campaign exposes what the Tories have done and why we need a better way. We will not rest until all our public sector workers are released from this Tory depression. So, conference, please support our campaign, and in doing so, show our public sector heroes that they have not been forgotten, that they have not been abandoned. Together we can and we must rebuild our public services from the wreckage of Tory cuts. And with Labour inspired by the spirit of Attlee under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn, working as one with the trade union movement, we can turn the tide. And conference, we will make history again. Thank you.
Conference, McCartney, TSSA National President. Conference, TSSA members often represent the front line. Terrorist atrocities outside Westminster, London Bridge and Finsbury Park, as well as recently at Parsons Green, all highlighted by Diane this morning in a wonderful speech. Our members running towards danger to serve the public, and yet, at this time where we face a constant threat, staff on stations are being cut, both in London Transport and on the mainline stations. Guards have been removed up and down the country, and solidarity to all of the strikers determined to prevent this from happening. And now our brave British Transport Police face a hit too. British Transport Police, where TSSA organise PCSOs and support staff. British Transport Police in Scotland is being broken up by the nationalist ideology of the SNP and supported by their Tory accomplices in Westminster. And this, don't forget, is a nationalist party who ran headlong into the privatisation of ScotRail, and they have the cheek to call themselves socialist and progressive. The dangerous plans to break up British Transport Police and move its Scottish components into the failing Police Scotland has been condemned by Her Majesty's Inspectorate as shameless and needlessly political, with no plan or need for its breakup. And this, along with the 22 CCTV jobs recently announced that they're going to be cut by ScotRail, it shows that they cannot be trusted with our safety, they cannot be trusted with our transport system, and the sooner a Labour government takes it back into public hands, the better for us all.
Apologies, first time conference, very nervous. Good afternoon, conference chair. Good afternoon, comrades. My name is Michelle Dorrell. I'm from the Folkestone and HYTHE CLP. And yes, I am the woman that had to go Amber Rudd on question time. When I was 21, the house me and my then husband rented was being sold out from under us by the landlord. At that time, we had a 3-year-old and another on the way. And unfortunately, the wages of which we took were not enough to cover the cost of another private rental, so we were left homeless. Thankfully, at that time, though, our council were able to temporarily house us in a bedsit together, and within a few months, we were placed in a council house. Somewhere we could call home. Somewhere free from the fear of homelessness and anxiety. Where we could raise our children, and crucially, we could afford the rent. That was 15 years ago. And that safety net will never be available to my children or your children in the future, not whilst we have a Tory government. A government hell-bent on putting money, corporations and themselves before the people they're meant to represent and serve. I mean, come on, in whose interest are they representing? And who do they actually serve? Because it certainly hasn't been the people of our country. That's why I joined the Labour Party, to take the courage of my convictions and fight back against the destruction of my children's future. Only a Labour government will save us from the soul-destroying scourge of mass homelessness that's rife in this country today. Only a Labour government can build the massive numbers of real social housing desperately needed to help solve the housing crisis facing thousands of families today. Only a Labour government with their housing policies can we resurrect our futures from this abyss. Not just for my children's sake, but for your children's sake, everyone's children's sakes, and all the generation of children yet to come.
Conference, after this delegate, we will hear from our local government speaker, and then we will take more delegates. And my apologies to the lady who just came down who'd waved the blue scarf. I will shout you first next time.
My name is Sarah Calloway, and I'm from Hampstead and Kilburn constituent. Yes. With the help of the grassroots and momentum, the majority went from about 1,100 to about 13,000. So we're in a very... And I'm here, I'm a first-time delegate, and I'm here with 2 other first-time women delegates. And we want to bring more people next time. I wanted to say, and I'm so glad that people have spoken about the situation of refugees and asylum seekers. And a colleague, Rehana Azam, spoke about mental health. But refugees are not only suffering mental health because of lack of access to services, and we all need the NHS, and that's why we're fighting for it. But also, there's been a policy, an official policy of destitution since 1999, so that a single refugee is expected to live on about £35 a week. This is hidden from the public, and it's a massive form of destitution that's going on. So people are living way down below the poverty line. Many of us have seen I, Daniel Blake, and Ken Loach did a fantastic job in spelling out the destitution that people face, but they first did it to refugees, and then they extended it to everyone else. And that's another reason for us to defend refugees and asylum seekers. For women refugees, 70% have suffered rape and other torture. Yet, as the speaker before said, they're locked up in horrendous detention centers. And I should add that women have had to campaign against racist sexual assault by guards, and the women have done that themselves by filming what's gone on and then publicizing that in the media. So I think we also have to recognize the work that immigrants and asylum seekers do, even inside detention centers. Women are fleeing from war zones, from conflict zones, from environmental devastation, from starvation and poverty. And that is often being caused by Western governments, including Britain, selling arms to countries, which then assault their populations. And that's why it's so urgent that we have Jeremy Corbyn as the next Prime Minister. We need an ethical foreign policy to stop spending on arms and selling arms to other countries. And we also need his help to close down detention centers once and for all. I just wanted to finish by saying that I think it would help in the Labour Party if we said more often that Africa and other countries have contributed over centuries to this country. In the slave trade, Britain profited to the tune of £7.5 trillion. And that money is here. When you look at Bristol, Liverpool, Manchester, London, this country is dripping with the blood and the contribution of African and other third world people. And I think it would help in our struggle to stop Brexit if we spelled that out to other white working class people who have also contributed massively. We have so much in common, but it's often lost. I'll stop there. I wanted to say how glad I am to be at this conference, to call out my other delegates, and also to say there's a sister from DPAC who was waiting to speak, and I wondered if the chair would allow her to speak because they have made a massive contribution.
So our next speaker this afternoon to talk about the work of Labour in local government is Lib Peck. Lib is the Deputy Leader of the Labour Group on the Local Government Association and Leader of Lambeth Council. Lib, welcome to the Labour Party conference.
Thank you, conference. I've been a member of the Labour Party for over 30 years. I've been a local councillor for the last 16 years, and I've been the leader of Lambeth for 5. This is my first time speaking at conference, and I'm extremely proud to deliver the local government report on behalf of the Local Government Association Labour Group. And that's because I am proud of what Labour local councils are achieving across the country, putting Labour values into practice, delivering with and for our communities, and standing up to a Tory government that just doesn't care. But we care. Labour councillors care. We are extending opportunity by creating apprenticeships and building the first council homes in a generation. We are tackling inequality and embedding fairness. Labour councils were the first to introduce the living wage, and Labour councils have championed trade union rights in the workplace. And we are always there supporting our most vulnerable at times of personal crisis and at times of community crisis too. Compare and contrast conference. The Tories in Kensington, who hid away from the public in the aftermath of the Grenfell tragedy, with the compassionate and visible leadership of Manchester and Southwark councils after the terrorist atrocities. Local government at its worst and local government at its best. But our Labour councils are facing the biggest challenge anyone has ever known. The scale of cuts we have faced and still face are simply staggering. Local government has been the hardest hit of any part of government, and Labour councils have been the hardest hit of them all. People put their trust in us to lead in difficult times. Over 30 million people are now served by a Labour mayor or a Labour council. And make no mistake, that puts a huge responsibility on us to make decisions, to weigh up choices and to determine priorities. Labour councillors have campaigned against austerity since the Tories and Lib Dems imposed it in 2010, and we will never stop fighting to protect our communities. We need to keep making the case for more investment. We must have more money to keep children safe from sexual and violent abuse. We must have more money to look after and give dignity to our older people. And we must reject the government's attempt to divide the public sector and support a fair deal for all public sector workers. And of course, most of all, we need more Labour councillors and more Labour councils. Councillors are the bedrock of our party's campaigning, meeting, listening and working with thousands of people. We are grateful to Nick Forbes, Labour's leader in local government, who, along with Alice Perry, are our representatives on the NEC. They put local government's voice at the heart of the party, where it belongs. Conference. The journey to a Labour government starts with a Labour victory on our doorsteps. It continues with a Labour victory in your town hall. And it ends with us powering Labour to victory and putting Labour back in Downing Street. Thank you, Conference.
We will now take more speeches on protecting communities. Can I see all those who wish to speak? I'm going to call the person at the back here with the red T-shirt. You've been very patient. And the lady with the blue scarf, who I called before. Am I? I'm going to call somebody from over here. The lady with the orange dress on this side.
Good afternoon, Chair, Delegates, Conference, Paula Peters, Bromley and Chislehurst, CLP. As a disabled woman and as a disability rights activist with Disabled People Against Cuts, DPAC, it's important that disabled people's voices are not silenced and heard at every platform and every forum. And I have to say to one delegate, we are not voiceless. We are speaking out in anger. And to all disabled delegates and activists, now is the time to raise your voices in anger about what we're experiencing under a Tory government. I just want to say that Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell have been consistent in voting against the cuts disabled people have been subjected to in 7 years of brutal Tory austerity. We have borne the brunt of the cuts 9 times more than any other group, and if you are with high support needs, an ex-independent living fund user, 19 times more than any other group. And we should remember the United Nations Convention of the Rights of People with Disabilities, that the Tory government, the UK, are the first state to be formally investigated, the first state to be found guilty of grave and systematic human rights violations, and just recently in Geneva, in August, they ruled that the cuts disabled people are experiencing are of a human catastrophe so big it cannot be said enough. I say to you, to all the families who've lost loved ones due to these cuts, their stories need to be heard. To all the activists who are not here and to people who cannot speak out, we must continue the fight to get their voices heard, their stories told. Every voice makes a difference. Every action, every campaign makes a difference. But change happens out on our streets and in our communities. And it's under a Labour government we must continue to pile the pressure so that we are fully included and with fully accessible services, so that we are as much a human being in society as non-disabled people. Thank you.
Hello, conference. Apparently I'm a floating head. My name's John. I'm from North Somerset Constituency Party. And I want to talk about economic incoherence. So I'm not just addressing you, conference, and the chair. I'm addressing all those comrades who are at home as well watching, and any of Theresa May's advisors who may be looking in, hoping to get some idea of some policy. So the current cuts to local government are not working. The reason they're not working is because what is happening is that only as the union representative delegates talked about earlier, only acute services, only the highest of thresholds have been met for any involvement. Councils do not have to get involved at the preventative stage. So what's happening is that more acute services are required to mop up that mess. And what happens then is we have increased workloads for those individuals, and as the very hard-working public sector workers are dealing with them, they can only be pushed so far. And they are leaving. They have options, and they are leaving in droves. Those who are not being forced out, those who remain, are leaving because they can't cope with it. So what's happening then is that the local authorities are having to hire agency staff at 3 times the wage. The net result is that the actual budget doesn't go down at all. They're spending more money, providing a worse service, and with no consistency. So I would also like to say that we talked about protecting communities and the importance of policing, and it's obviously very important. But again, that is an acute service. If you cut children's services, if you cut care leaver services, you are creating those acute problems for later on down the line. You are not addressing, no child is born bad. No child is born evil. It is the circumstances in which they are raised that turns them to that, whether it's through deprivation, whether it's through poverty, whether it's through bad parenting. And we need to be, conference, promoting those services that catch them at the earliest stage, that give children as chances, that make them the generation that we can be proud of.
Speaker, I'll be looking for more speakers. Can you put your hands up? Thank you. The gentleman there. Yep. Yes, for your cheek, you can get up. The gentleman with the policeman's hat. Thank you. I've got 3 speakers, thank you.
When I arrived on Friday, I ran out of spare change as I tried to give at least something to the many, many homeless people that I met. So yesterday, I got more coins and I gave out more change, but it wasn't enough. And of course, it can't ever be enough, because one person giving out spare change is not what is needed. What is needed is not spare change, but real transformative change. Brighton, it turns out, has more homeless people than anywhere in the country other than London. It seems like every shop doorway has become a place to sleep, and each alleyway a home to a cardboard house. Why? It is shameful. And what has gone wrong? Why are there more homeless people here this year than I was here 2 years ago? Well, here's a clue. It begins with a C and it ends with S. The Conservatives. Homelessness has doubled under the Conservatives. And it will get worse as universal credit is rolled out in many more towns and cities across the UK. More and more vulnerable people are going to find themselves unable to make their rent and turfed out onto the street. What does it mean in the 5th richest economy in the world when we turf out our most vulnerable people onto the streets? Can we call ourselves great when we build our greatness on the backs of the poor and the weak and the vulnerable? I think not. And so I say this to Mrs. May and her Conservatives who call themselves patriots. You are failing this nation when you are failing the vulnerable, and we need decisive and affirmative action. And it's called this: build more social housing. Give councils the right to lend and to buy and to build. Fund more supported accommodation. Stop cutting budgets to homeless and housing services. Stop the rollout of universal credit and stop the cap of welfare. A quality home isn't a gift. A quality home and getting one shouldn't be like winning the lottery. A home is a right, a human right. And we must fight. We must fight for that housing. We must fight for a Labour government. And I welcome Labour's brilliant manifesto policies on housing. We must win the next general election and we must get those policies into place. Thank you, conference.
Good afternoon, Chair, Conference. Vince Maple. Wow. Thanks for that. It's Mum and Dad that gave me the name, so thank you very much. I'm proud to be leader of the Labour group on Medway Council, but I'm here in my capacity as an ALC rep for the South East. And since we last met at conference, we've got some new members in the South East ALC team. We've got Becky Cooper, the first Labour councillor in Worthing for over 40 years. We have Tony Winkler and Ian Venables, both of whom in August took seats from UKIP on their dying deathbed. That's UKIP, not Tony and Ian on their dying deathbed, just to be clear. And of course, the biggest victory, Simon Worley, the biggest political upset in Canterbury. Well, maybe there was one other one, but he was a fantastic victory on June the 8th, and all of those will be standing up for their communities. And they join that team who are standing up for 30 million of our citizens up and down the country in communities who need the Labour values to be put into place. And we've seen this year, in the tragedies that we've heard about this morning, in Manchester, in my town of birth, Islington, and Southwark, Labour councils working with the community, not abandoning their community, as we saw in Kensington. And we see Labour councils delivering for their communities on a day-to-day basis. If you've got 10 seconds over the next few days, pop down to the ALC stand and pick up the 100 Innovations booklet. You'll see Labour councils, Labour councillors delivering for the citizens of our country. And that's important. Why is that important? Because it's Labour councillors on the front line, standing up with members, working shoulder to shoulder. We are working as one to stand up against austerity, to stand up against Theresa May's dreadful attacks. And we're in a situation, a bizarre situation in local government, where the Tories, quite frankly, are embarrassed. They're embarrassed of their government, and they're very embarrassed of their own Secretary of State, who Nick Forbes said, quite rightly, went down about as well as a cup of cold sick. A nice analogy, I think you agree. So, friends, I'm going to finish with this. Local government is here. We are fighting. We have got Labour in government. We should be proud of that, and we should fight hard to defend that. We don't know when the next general election will be. I want it to be soon because I want Andrew Gwynn to be Secretary of State for local government. We don't know when it will be, but we do know there will be elections in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. And we need the energy that we had in May and June to ensure we keep seats and we win seats, so we have more people in the ALC, more people standing up for Labour values across our communities, Labour councillors working with the party as one, fighting for the many, not the few. Thank you very much.
Conference! Gail Hodson, South Ribble, hello. I'm talking about protecting our communities this afternoon from fracking. In Lancashire, we are imminently to be fracked. We've got the test site at the moment, and it is an extreme form of energy extraction with serious and long-term consequences for the environment, air quality and our water supplies. Fracking generates huge volumes of toxic liquid and solid waste and brings with it widespread industrialisation as drill sites, pipelines, compressor stations and gas infrastructure spread across the countryside and the rural and suburban areas. We are watching at Preston New Road at the test fracking site now daily breaches of the conditions that they've got within place to carry out their activities. Spillages on the road, they're coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning. We are hearing all sorts of noises going on. We know they're breaking stuff, they're sending stuff down into the magnets to try and get broken pieces out of the pipe. There's all sorts going on. It's coming across the whole of England. 60% of England has been licensed or is suitable for fracking. Licenses are rolling out as we speak with INEOS and various other companies. We cannot go down this fossil-based fuel industry. We have got to address our climate change targets and our responsibilities. The Secretary of State, Greg Clark, has got to give consent after taking into conditions within the 2015 Infrastructure Act to allow commercial fracking. That has not been done yet, so could you please all write to Greg Clark and tell him not to do this? If we all write, he gets thousands of letters, you never know. He might sit up and look, you think? Anyway, it's a responsibility. We need to embed fracking into our Labour Party policy on our energy policies. We need renewable energy schemes, community renewable energy schemes, solar, tidal, wind, energy from rivers. Look at the old mills where we got all the energy from. And we need a constant form of energy, which we've got. Elon Musk, with his Tesla, he's light years ahead of what's happening with the car, with the electric car, with his Tesla roof tiles, and with the Tesla Powerwall. The information's there, the technology's there, the jobs are there. We need to embrace this, and we need to reject fracking. Thank you very much. Before the next speaker, I'm going to call 3 more. The gentleman down here with the red leaflet, and it's been brought to my attention I'm not choosing anybody from the tiered sections. So if you want to just wave your hands around, because I can't actually see you. Lady in white right at the top. Yes? Yep. And the lady with the red flag with the blue hair. No, it's the lady that's walking down now.
Paddy Tipping, Police and Crime Commissioner for Nottinghamshire. Look, Conference, we all know that you can't trust the Tories. And when it comes to support for the police, the Tories don't tell the truth. They say that they're protecting police budgets. The Prime Minister has made a mantra of it. But the reality is that police budgets are fixed in cash terms. And what that means is real term cuts for all 43 police forces. Since 2015, police budgets have been progressively cut by £200 million year on year. And looking to the next 3 years, I think police budgets look set to fall by a further 8%. And if that's not bad enough, let's go back to 2010. Since 2010, 2.3 billion, or 25% of the police budget has been cut. And it's a disgrace that as we meet here today, police numbers in the country are the lowest for 30 years. 20,000 police officers have lost their jobs. 6,000 PCSOs and even more police staff have lost their jobs. And there's a perfect storm brewing. The amount of resource is going down, but crime is going up. Last year, recorded crime went up 10%. The year before, it went up 8%. And the pattern of nature of crime is changing too. Terrorism is a real and immediate threat. People are abused, particularly women are abused online. And there's fraud online, and it's an area we need to invest in. And most particularly, Labour commissioners have put women at the centre of our policies. And in parts of the country, the reports of rape, even now or in the past, have gone up by 100%. So we need to focus on that. And we need to praise the people who provide our services. We've seen major events, terrorist attacks in Manchester and in London. We've seen Grenfell Towers, and we need to praise the police service, the fire service, and the emergency services. We need to salute them. But what have we got? But what have we got? We've got a government that demeans and disparages public services. Let me give you an example. Just a fortnight ago, the government announced they were allegedly going to lift the police pay cap and offer 2%, an unfunded 2%. On the same day, in the same hour, they announced that inflation had gone up by 2.9%. What kind of pay rise is that? And of course, the pay rise is unfunded. It's got to be met from existing police budgets. And the cost is going to be £70 million across England and Wales. And we need to find that, and we need to make difficult decisions about what our priorities are. And what are our priorities? Our priorities as Labour commissioners have been to put women and children at the forefront, to tackle domestic violence. We've worked hard to make sure that our police forces acknowledge and respond to the needs of the black community. Stop and search levels in Nottinghamshire are the lowest in the country. And what's more, in my own area, for over 2 years now, we've not taken anybody who's got a mental health problem into custody.
Wind up now, please.
People should get care, not custody. So what we're doing, we don't want much really. What we want is safer communities where we can be proud to bring up our children. Strong communities where people share our values. And let's be clear about it. It's only Labour that can build that better future for our children, our communities. Let's get out and, unlike the Tories, tell the truth.
Thank you, Conference. Tony Green from Unison, speaking with first-hand experience about the damage done to our police forces under Theresa May. Home Secretary she was then, and now Prime Minister, so I've had her for a good 7 years. And I also speak as a proud member of police staff. Under her watch, we've had cuts to police officers, cuts to police staff, cuts to PCSOs, and crime is on the rise. Our forces are understaffed, overworked and overstretched. Our community policing is disappearing at precisely the time when this kind of policing is more important than ever before. It's police staff who have seen the greatest impact on their jobs, our Unison members. Our members work as 999 call takers, intelligence analysts, crime scene investigators, to name only a few, and these are the unsung heroes of the emergency services. Our members tell us they no longer have time to do the community policing they came into the service to do. And at the same time, crime is rising, but Conference, it doesn't have to be this way. The Labour government in Wales has invested in neighbourhood policing, unlike the Tory government in Westminster. The majority of Welsh police forces have increased PCSO numbers substantially. If we want a safer society, we need a properly funded police service. And Conference, this is before I turn to the disaster that is probation privatisation. Overseen by the man with the reverse Midas touch, Chris Grayling. First he split the service down the middle, and then he sold half of it to the private sector. Victims of crime are being forgotten. Preventing reoffending coming second to artificial targets. And one member told me, we've gone from success to failure in such a short period of time, and all for profit, and that is heartbreaking. Unison believe that privatisation, cuts and austerity, whether in the police service or probation service, is a political choice. Public safety is a political choice. Conference, safer communities depend on a Labour government in Westminster. And Conference, can I end by saying our hard-working members in police and probation are under massive pressure. They're being asked to do the impossible with less and less. They deserve better, they deserve decent pay, and it's time to pay up now. Thank you.
Hello, Conference. My name's Charlie Zosseder. I'm from Dover and Deal CLP. This is my first conference, and thank you. As of 2 weeks ago, I'm a town councillor for Dover. It's still sinking in a bit. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about the impact of Brexit on my town. Dover is in the front line of Europe. It's a unique position. Dover is also a town with low educational rates and a lot of poverty. Many of Dover's population supports Labour. They're workers, they're miners' families, but they're also anti-immigration. And this is mainly because they're not getting the education about it. They're believing the Daily Mail, they're believing the Sun, they're believing what the media is telling them. The impact of Brexit on Dover is going to be huge. The quote the port has given for people leaving the country post-Brexit, just going on holiday, is 2 minutes per car. Now, to give you an idea, the Spirit of Britain, the P&O ferry, carries 1,080 cars. It's going to be huge. In 2015, there was a strike in the port of Calais. This turned Dover into a car park. It took me 3 hours to get from one side of Dover to the other, with a 3-month-old in the car. That was fun. For weeks, I was trapped in my area of Dover, as it was nigh on impossible to get out of our road. Now, our MP, Charlie Elphick, he campaigned against Brexit, supposedly. He has consistently voted against staying in the EU. He has also consistently voted against a right for EU nationals, which include my husband, staying in the UK. He's recently raised an outcry in Dover about the impact immigration rules will have, and yet has consistently voted to increase immigration rules. Charlie would see my husband and his family leave the UK. This would lose Dover, one of its best, in my opinion, plumbing and heating engineers, a nursery assistant, a local store manager, and a foster carer who has worked tirelessly as a local council foster carer, as having several children from a young age up until the age of 18. A hard Brexit is only going to damage Dover, damage its people, its relationships, its community, and its businesses. As I've said, Dover is on the front line of Europe, and it's in the front line of politics. We have been selected to have an all-women shortlist, and we have been selected to have a parliamentary candidate in place by Christmas, which is excellent news. Dover is a seat that Labour can win. Dover is a seat that Labour needs to win.
Please.
Yeah. We have a candidate, we need a candidate who's ready for a challenge, and we need a candidate who's ready for a hard fight. As a CLP delegate, I would invite all women who want this fight to come and stand. If you're local to Kent, come and stand. If we get you, great. If not, then it at least ensures that Dover gets the best candidate, local or not. We can win this. Thank you, conference.
3 more speakers. Can you indicate? Oh. Yeah. The red and blue flag right at the back there, lady in black. Yeah, and the red flag. Yep, yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm really grateful. I've come to put Tatton CLP onto the map, but also to tell you this. We're being lied to wholesale. We're being told, as every public service we ever had is ripped into gobbets and sold off, that it's being privatised. It's not. It's being commercialised. It is being stolen from the people who are paying for it still. It's a public disgrace that we're having to put up with this. It is time now that we insist, as a Labour Party, for full, public and professional accountability. And by that I mean, in public accountability, quite obviously, Parliament is involved, but also all the local authorities are involved, and any other public service, especially at the top end. And in professional accountability, I believe we have a severe problem going on in that, for instance, social workers who come in as juniors are so overloaded, they are desperate before they even start work. And they're taught that that's the way to do it. No, it's not. The way to do it is to act according to the social work rule book and to make sure that they take on nothing more than they can actually physically cope with and mentally cope with in a lot of cases. Those people who are forcing our professionals on presumably pain of not getting jobs or job losses or demotions to do the sorts of things their own profession has taught them not to do are a disgrace, and they should be held fully accountable to the public and to the professions. If teachers are being overworked and can't do the job, if schools are sold off with our children to be academies, this is why we have so many people in permanent problems. Apart from the fact they can't get decent housing because our public accountability for that seems to have gone out of the window. Children are being sold short. I believe they are being trained. They are not being educated. The public accountability of this country should include educating children to think for themselves, because if they're not doing it, we're not doing the job. And that brings me to the commercialisation of jails and the way our police are left to cope. I have experience in South Yorkshire. We know about Orgreave, Hillsborough, a ruck of children who have been severely abused over years. And yet we have a police force, we have a court system. Where is their public accountability? When my father was killed 13 years ago, Ralph Winstanley, do look him up, we still are waiting for the start of public accountability and a police investigation. We should not have to beg for our democratic rights. They belong to us. That's what we fought for. That's all I've got to say. Please consider it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Chris Howes. I'm from Bedford and Kempston CLP. Chair, conference. In a speech before lunch, the Shadow Home Secretary paid tribute to the first responders of the terrorist attacks around Britain. The police officers, the firemen, and the ambulance and paramedics, and quite rightly so. However, I'd like to ask conference also to pay tribute to a group that is, for obvious reasons, sometimes left unmentioned, underrepresented, and that is the intelligence officers in the police force, in our secret services and in the military, who prevent attacks day after day and have prevented far, far more atrocities than we've seen. Without them, it would be a lot worse. Our secret services, in fact, are the best in the world. I genuinely believe that. And I would like an assurance from the Home Secretary and from her team, from the Shadow Home Secretary and from her team in the Shadow Home Office, that as well as the money for the police force, which is needed, the money for the fire service, which is needed, we also make sure that our secret services are properly funded so they can continue doing the fantastic work that they do. And I would like her to pledge, if possible, to increase secret service and security service funding, because, as I said, it is so vital that these attacks are stopped before they even get to the stage where they are causing damage to our streets. With this extra funding, they can continue to do the fantastic work that they do day in, day out, and they could prevent these people from causing damage to our streets and to our shores. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Conference. My name is Lauren Stocks. I am North West Young Labour's Under-19s officer. I am the sole delegate of Ashton-under-Lyne, home to the impeccable Angela Rayner MP, or Shadow and soon-to-become Secretary of State for Education in this country. However, Conference, as hard as we have worked and as hard as we have driven our campaigns and we have knocked on rainy doors, we have to keep going, we have to continue this fight, and I'll tell you why. Now, I didn't make notes before I came on stage, and my thoughts are going to be a little bit scattered. Please go easy on me. However, I'm just kind of here to let everybody know that, so this year, I took my GCSEs. I got my results in August, and I'd like to say something about an issue, which is the GCSEs, but they're not really being spoken about to a point where other people are listening, because kids like me at 16 and at my age don't feel like they have the opportunity to come to things like this and stand up and talk about what is going on in our classrooms. It's absolutely justified and reasonable that teachers should go up and stand for their employment rights, to stand to not be ostracised by Ofsted, an organisation that has no idea what they are doing to our countries. But as a child this year, to have sat the first English and Maths GCSE reform where they changed lettered grades into numbers, I have seen. Now, there's a statistic that we were shown when I was about 13 or 14 that told me that 3 in 10 people in every classroom suffer with a mental illness. Now, I'm going to be a bit frank here, Conference. That is bollocks, right? It's a good half, if not more. I could have walked into any food tech, history, art, maths classroom and just watched seas of spaced out, stressed out, depressed kids in a battlefield where they can't afford pens and paper. It is a disgusting sight, and we cannot sit on our hands any longer. Conference, I urge you, this is a call to arms. Please, 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 if you've got children or relatives that are of teenage age and are about to go into these newly reformed GCSEs, I tell you to make sure that they know that they are loved and that they have all of the respect and support that they deserve, because no government with a blue ribbon will ever give them that.
Conference, sorry, before the next speaker, I'm going to take 3 more, if you can indicate that you wish to speak. The gentleman there with glasses on, the lady here with the red book, yes, you, and the gentleman right over there with the check shirt.
Conference, my name is Heather Peto from Nottingham South CLP. I'm loving the energy of this conference and the passion that we're hearing from the speakers. And I'd like to make my own contribution about a personal issue that has affected me in the past, which is rough sleeping and the effects it has on our communities. Years ago, I suffered with a rare illness that left me unable to look after myself, both mentally and physically. There was too many loopholes, too many hurdles to actually get housing. So I ended up sleeping rough on the streets, wet, damp, and hungry. And I couldn't get out of it. It was only through Good Samaritans that I ended up getting out of that problem. Years later, though, I come and I had the honour of representing the Labour Party at the general election in Rutland and Melton constituency. Thank you. Rutland and Melton is meant to be a relatively rich constituency. They keep returning Tory MPs, unfortunately. But, I mean, all this time later, we are still having the same problems with rough sleepers and people that are too ill to get help themselves. And I came across in my campaigning a rough sleeper called Rick. Rick had fought in the Gulf War and had been left and came back and had severe mental health illnesses and difficulties. And the loopholes to try and get him to have some social housing were just impossible. And he is living in a tent in a rich constituency. It is absolutely disgusting. And that is one of the reasons why we need a Labour government. I'd just like to say a bit more about rare illness, because someone said earlier about ADHD and the cost of drugs to treat ADHD. The actual drugs, you know, they do cost £100 a month, etc., but they also are very useful for treating my rare illness. Unfortunately, we have health rationing these days, and I only am allowed these drugs 3 days a week. What am I meant to do the other 5 days of the week? So, I mean, this is, you know, the privatisation by the back door. And it's not just my rare illness. Again, I'm standing up in Rutland and Melton. We had a case of a child that's got a growth development problem and just needs growth hormones to tackle that. That's, you know, recommended by their consultant. But, you know, Tory health cuts, that is being vetoed. That costs us, I mean, just forgetting the human terms in it just for a moment, that costs us so much in terms of that child is going to have so many difficulties when they go through their life. So, you know, but of course, you know, the human cost is far more than that. Anyway, thank you very much, and yeah.
Councillor Catherine Dunn, representing Labour Housing Group. Conference, just days after the general election this year, a disaster was unfolding on a council estate in London. A terrifying fire swept through a tower block in North Kensington. Started by a faulty appliance, it was not contained in the flat it started in, like we expect fires should be. It spread rapidly throughout the building, seemingly from the cladding on the exterior of the building. After battling for hours, firefighters were able to put out the fire, but by then it had already taken its toll. We may never know how many people died in that fire in Grenfell Tower. What we do know is that hundreds of people were left homeless, and their distress was compounded by the appalling incompetence of the Tory-led council in Kensington and Chelsea. 3 months after that fire, hundreds remain in temporary accommodation. Only a handful have been housed permanently. It's not just the council. The government also is to blame. The failure of the Tory government to update building regulations when they had a report sitting on their desk for a year is a disgrace. Councils and housing associations are now anxiously awaiting the outcome of the inquiry and any recommendations that will come out of that into what they need to do in order to ensure the safety of their tenants. In the meantime, many of them are getting on and acting, taking off unsafe cladding, replacing fire doors and making fire safety improvements. Conference, we must demand that it is not tenants who are obliged to meet the costs of these works. Any money that is spent from rent accounts, carrying out fire safety improvements, taking off cladding and replacing cladding is money that will not then be spent on new council and social housing. We must demand an independent review of the broader failures and the policies that led to this disaster. We must demand an overhaul of how housing associations and private landlords and tenant management associations are regulated. We must ensure that they are accountable to their tenants. Public funding must only be made available for housing associations that can demonstrate this. The tenants at Grenfell did raise concerns, and we must ensure that those who didn't listen to them are held to account. Finally, we must demand that the National Forum to represent the interests of tenants is established to give them back their voice. Conference, we are the Labour Party. Social housing is in our blood. The right to a decent home is one that we must defend to the hilt. Labour councils, good housing associations around the country are delivering new social housing despite the government policies and despite the lack of funding that tries to get in their way. We need to support them, but in doing so, we also need to demand the best for tenants. Thank you.
Chair Conference, Mike Payne, GMB. Chair, in 1906, my grandfather came to the UK, settled in Cardiff from Valletta in Malta. At the same time, my grandmother came to the UK from Cork in Ireland. Both would be seen as migrants if you take the Tories' definition. You'll not be surprised, therefore, that I share Diane Abbott's vision of a Labour Party that never scapegoats migrants, and we should support them at every step. We must stand boldly, shoulder to shoulder with those comrades, and we should argue boldly and proudly for free movement and migrants' rights. Conference, migrants are not to blame for falling wages, for poor working conditions, job insecurity. We need to place the blame where it belongs, with the rich and the powerful, with a Tory government that helps employers cut wages and introduces working conditions that nobody wishes to work with. A Tory government that helps them to cut wages and services, concentrate more and more of society's wealth in the hands of an unaccountable elite. Low wages and worsening conditions are the result of anti-trade union laws and attacks on the working class, and not immigration. I should take the opportunity as Chair of the Welsh Executive to thank my colleagues over here from the National Assembly for Wales for passing the Trade Union Wales Bill that actually took away the worst excesses of anti-trade union legislation in Wales. Freedom of movement, colleagues, benefits us all. Migrants are the backbone of our NHS and our other public services. They're also our friends, comrades and loved ones. And they are currently under attack from the ruling class. Millions of EU nationals living in the UK still don't know whether they will be able to stay in this country, or they don't know whether they will be able to bring their families here to live with them. Conference, it is about time we started to kick back against this right-wing press and right-wing parties in this country. We need to start standing up for migrants. They contribute to this country to the tune of £2 billion a year. Now is the time to stop this conference. We need to enshrine this in party policy. Let's stand up for those individuals and let's make that our goal from now. Thank you, comrades. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay, the last three speakers. The lady in the flowered dress here. Yes? Yep. And the lady right at the back. No. The person that's just sat down. No. Behind.
Whereabouts?
Yes. I can't see, I just told you that. My glasses are not that good. Three speakers.
Greetings, conference. My name is Andrew Newman, and I'm here representing North Tyneside CLP. And I'm also currently a local councillor for North Tyneside Council, and I'll say it now, this is the first conference I've ever been to, so please be kind. North Tyneside Council, like many councils, have seen their budget slashed by Tory austerity. We've seen our services reduced to dangerous levels, we've seen our social housing attacked, and the most vulnerable in our society have seen unprecedented attacks upon them. Now remember what we've been told about austerity. In 2010, George Osborne promised this nation that if we followed his plan, if we followed austerity, then the books would be balanced by 2015 and the need for austerity would end. Since then, we've had year-on-year austerity with no end in sight. It was a wise man, and I do believe it was Albert Einstein who said it, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I would ask the Tory party to remember these words when they set their next budget. Since then, more and more experts have spoken out against austerity. One such person is Paul Krugman, who is a professor of economics, who wrote in 2015 for The Guardian, saying that every nation who introduced austerity in 2010 has seen their economy suffer. He also goes on to say that every bit of evidence that was used to support the austerity drive in 2010 has since been discredited. So if it's been discredited, why has it continued? Well, it's clear that the only reason austerity has continued is that it is driven by ideological concerns, not economic concerns. The very fact that the Tories have given £1 billion in bribes to the DUP is evidence of this. Now, people know me, know that I'm not shy. I will not hide my past. I grew up in poverty, absolute poverty. I had absolutely nothing. I watched my mother and my stepdad struggle to provide the basics in life. I remember being hungry. It was that bad. But the thing which I remember most of a child growing up in the Thatcher and Major years is the look in my parents' eyes. It's a look that I will never forget. It is a look of people who have been kicked to the bottom by a system that has victimised them and valued greed over compassion. I saw how a Labour government then changed this. I saw how our living standards increased. I saw my brother benefiting from the education that Labour provided. But all these improvements have been swept aside in an instant by the Tory parties. Now, I served this nation for 13 years in the army. I served with the 1st Battalion Coast Guard in Iraq, Northern Ireland and Afghanistan. I bled for this country. I suffered for this country. I missed the birth of my children for this country. But I will tell you this now. The country I fought for was not the nasty, vicious Tory party that we have. It was a nation dedicated to one thing, and one thing only, social justice. And the only party who can deliver that is the Labour Party. Thank you.
Conference, Kevin Neal, Plymouth, Sutton and Devonport CLP, and a first-time speaker here. I was proud to have stood to as a candidate for Labour in St Austell and Newquay in June this year. Very proud to have stood on such an excellent manifesto, and even prouder to see the Labour vote rise like it did almost everywhere. 5,150 and 4th place in 2015 in our case, to 15,714 in 2nd place. Conference, safer communities can be achieved by winning seats all over the country. Please don't write anywhere in this country off. Conference, a safer community is one where every member of that community feels safe. If one person is cast aside and is out on the streets, then that's not a safe community, and we must never accept it as so. So we must work tirelessly so that everybody in our communities feels safe, not just the few. Conference, last night I spent some time talking to a young woman called Tanya, who was sleeping rough on the streets of Brighton. And somebody mentioned earlier how many homeless people we see in Brighton. And it is a fact that the borough with the highest level of homelessness in England is Westminster, the 2nd highest is Brighton, and surprisingly the 3rd highest is Cornwall. I've been a homeless campaigner and worked in homelessness for about 25 years, and I do like to put some time wherever I go into looking what's happening. So I promised Tanya something. I told her that I would speak up for her. So today, I'm speaking here to you on behalf of Tanya, who's out there on the streets tonight, because that conference is what this is all about. We are here to give voice to the many rather than the few, and I give my voice to Tanya here today because she deserves a fair hearing. Comrades, austerity is poverty organised for and on behalf of a Tory state. Poverty is violence against the poor, and homelessness is an extreme form of poverty. So I ask you, wherever you go, wherever you come from, please take a stand against homelessness. The Labour manifesto in June pledged to build 1 million affordable homes over 5 years, 500,000 council homes. That is essential that we do not water that down. We have to build those homes. We have to deliver them in every community in the land. Conference, I'll wind up there. I just want you to remember, when you think about the theme of safer communities is not about the comfortable middle class saying this is nice. Safer communities is about people like Tanya knowing that we actually care enough to do something about her, not step over her in the street, not look the other way, but come over, reach out a hand, help, come in here and then vote for socialist policies that will rock her world and everybody else's. Conference, please do that.
Hello Conference, my name's Danielle Spencer and I'm here representing Hove and Portslade CLP. I'm also Hove and Portslade's Women's Officer, and I'm going to be talking to you today a little bit about violence against women and how it affects our communities. Violence against women and girls should be a national security issue, and that needs to be reflected in our party policy. It's not just that in the UK, 1 in 4 women experience intimate partner violence, usually sexual or physical, let alone any other type of violence that they might experience. It's not just that in a recent survey, when asked what people fear most, men said being laughed at and women said being killed by their partners. It's also because there is extensive evidence of the link between domestic violence and terrorism, with wives and girlfriends often the terrorists' first victims. More than half of the mass shootings in the United States are related to domestic violence. The same principles of power, control, fear, and violence apply, and 98% of mass killings are performed by men, and that's a fact, and we need to address it. The root causes of both intimate terrorism and mass terrorism and killings are the same. We need to work on gender transformative programming within education programs. We need to work with parents to address gender roles, and this needs to be mainstreamed within our education and other child protection services. And of course, this needs to be funded. We need to ensure that we improve the enforcement of legislation. Women's Aid found that only 1 in 5 domestic violence survivors who had reported had seen criminal sanctions or proceedings against their abuser. This is wrong. This is a disgrace. We need to take women's rights and harmful masculinities seriously, not just because living a life free from violence is a fundamental human right, but also for the safety of us all. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jake Tinsley from Mid-Norfolk CLP. Recently become a town councillor in a town called Watton. I'm mainly here to encourage as many of you to become councillors. If a punk musician like me can become a town councillor, then anyone can.
especially in Norfolk, where everywhere seems to be blue, but not in necessarily a good way. I'm constantly fighting the other councillors and being pushed into a corner, essentially, with my ideas. And the main thing is funding. They say we can't afford to do this, we can't afford to do that. The most recent one was they tripled their burial fees overnight because they can't afford to build a new cemetery, which we've only got 5 years left of places to bury people. So not only are we worrying about the people that are alive, we can't cater for the people that are dying as well. And it's a serious thing. We are running out of space, and we are not given the money as a council to be able to do this. So they're trying to whack it straight onto the residents, which I don't feel is fair at all. But the other main thing is when I emailed the town clerk and asked how much there was for an arts budget, I was told we had nothing at all. We had no budget for me to be able to encourage the young people, encourage anyone to get involved in music, in art, in any way, form or shape. And that's just not acceptable. And I think we need to put more focus into the arts, because it was music which got me here. So thank you.
I'm sorry, I won't be calling any more speakers. The gentleman was the last one. Who am I talking? Okay. Yep, come up.
Chair Conference, Tricia Clark, exercising my right to refer back a section of this document. And you'll be asked to vote on this document in a while. And it's quite clear from the debate, people are really passionate about the forced academisation.
I'm sorry, it's too late. We've already had the last speaker.
But there's been no time to, no one's referred back part of the document. I just want to refer back page 10 on schools. You know, because Islington North wrote to the Policy Forum. We wrote to the Policy Forum and we asked, and we made a submission saying we welcome the end of the forced academisation of schools. We want to end selection and we want to bring all schools under local authority control. And there's no mention in this document about that. So I'm just asking for a reference back of page 10 on schools, the paragraph on schools.
Okay,
it's up to you, Conference. It's my right, it's our right to do that, Conference.
I called the last speaker. Sorry, I called the last speaker and we are discussing that document on Tuesday. So there were 33 speakers and I'm sure that you'll all agree they were all absolutely amazing. So I'd like to just say thank you to everyone. I'm now going to ask Andrew Gwynn to address us.
Conference, I'm delighted to respond to the Protecting Communities debate as Labour's new Shadow Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government. I want to begin by thanking my immediate predecessors, Graham Morris and Theresa Pearce, and to introduce our new CLG team in Parliament, Yvonne Favargue, Jim McMahon, Roy Kennedy, Jeremy Beecham and my PPS, Stephen Morgan, the first Labour MP for Portsmouth South in the seat's 99-year history. I served for 12 years as a councillor in Tameside, Greater Manchester. In fact, all of the Labour CLG team began our political journeys in local government. And I want to thank our Labour councillors who do an outstanding job across the country. I also want to thank Councillor Nick Forbes for his leadership of the LGA Labour Group. Nick has long campaigned against the scissors of doom forced onto local authorities by this Tory government. Thank you, Nick, and thank you to the LGA Labour Group team. Let's also pay tribute to the emergency services, the volunteers and the community who rushed to the aid of Grenfell residents on the 14th of June. The support that has been shown by the community in response to this dreadful incident has continued to show how sorely lacking the response has been from the Tory government. Thank you, John Healy and Emma Dent Code, for your work following this tragedy. We will not stop until every resident of Grenfell Tower has a safe place to live and the support they need to rebuild their lives. Conference, we know the difference Labour in local government can make. In Bristol, Labour have pushed the social care crisis into the spotlight, leading the call for the city leaders to come together to lobby central government over cuts. South Tyneside have developed a purpose-built facility to support integrated health and care services designed to support the needs of those with varying stages of dementia. In London, Sadiq Khan has called an end to my mate Boris's vanity projects, instead prioritising the development of new affordable housing. In Greater Manchester and Merseyside, our Metro mayors Andy Burnham and Steve Rotheram understand that a northern powerhouse is one built by local people and by investing in our communities and not through slogans alone. And after one of our darkest nights this year, as my city, Manchester, woke to find children, young people and their families had lost their lives, Andy offered the unifying leadership that was needed. Labour in local government will continue to innovate, to make a real difference to people's lives. But I know the very difficult decisions that Labour councillors have had to make over the past 7 years, as this Tory government sneakily attempts to devolve the blame for their cuts away from Whitehall and to local councillors in town halls. Conference, we won't be fooled. Police cuts, fire service cuts, Sure Start closures, the crisis in social care, they all have the same root cause, a Tory dogmatic vision of a smaller state. Austerity is a political choice. And we know that their cuts have hit the poorest communities the hardest. But it does not have to be this way. This was the simple message that our leader, Jeremy Corbyn, took to the country in June's election. If, like me, you went to see Jeremy speak, you would have seen the very real desperation for change that greeted him. The emotion in the eyes of those that for the first time in years felt hope. People who do not accept that this country, the 5th richest in the world, should be defined by growing unfairness and increasing inequality. That's why, Conference, a vote for Labour will always be a vote for a fairer Britain. But, Conference, we cannot empower our communities if we impoverish them. That's why we have promised to put council funding on a sustainable footing. Councils would be £1.5 billion better off under a Labour government next year. But 7 years of savage cuts has created a hole in our public services that demands more from us than increased investment. It demands that we consider fresh ideas and fresh approaches. A generation of outsourcing and forced privatisation of public services has hollowed out the capacity of many of our councils to deliver for our communities. For the past 3 decades, we've been told that outsourcing delivers better value for money. But all too often, when savings are made, it is because services are cut back, charges are introduced, and the pay and the conditions of our valued public service workforce are attacked. Meanwhile, Conference, those decisions are taken behind a cloak of commercial confidentiality. And we know what else happens when our local services are handed over to private companies. Our councils continue to have responsibility for local services, but they lose the ability to deliver them. So that when you report a pothole, or when you complain about street cleansing, it's to someone in a call centre far away who doesn't know your area and has never walked down your streets. That's if you're lucky to get to speak to anyone at all. And with every contract that's outsourced, our democratic institutions, our councils, lose dedicated, qualified staff. Now, across the country, Labour councils are already showing that it doesn't have to be this way. Labour councils in North Tyneside, Islington, Stockport and many others have shown that local services can be delivered better and more efficiently in-house. Austerity demanded innovation from the sector, and ideas and innovations from Labour councils must not be forgotten as we plan for government. So today, I can announce Labour's radical plan to renew faith in local services and to deliver a renaissance of local government. Building on the work of my colleague John Trickett, the next Labour government will deliver a bill to rebuild our local services. In it, we will give councils greater powers to deliver services themselves, because our services should be run for local communities alone. We'll extend transparency and freedom of information rules so that we know where our money is going. And Conference, we will end the two-tier workforce with a fair wage clause. Taken together, this will be some of the largest sets of reforms to local government in modern times. Empowering communities and rebuilding local institutions and local services. Because they're our public services and we should always put people first. It's about strengthening society. It's about putting our values, our socialism, into practice. Because we understand, Conference, that it is by the strength of our common endeavour that we achieve more together than we do alone. And it is communities, properly empowered and renewed, that are at the forefront of delivering that Labour vision of a better, fairer, more equal society. We are so close to having the chance to make our vision a reality. So, Conference, let's make it our sole mission. A Labour government standing up for our neighbourhoods, protecting our communities, for the many, not the few. Let's get to it.
So we'll now take the report from Wales, and I'm pleased to welcome the First Minister, Carwyn Jones.
Pnawn da gynhadledd yn bleser mawr I fod gyda chi gyd to yma Brighton mwyn sicrhau Llywodraeth Lafur. Nid dim ond yng Nghymru ond dros Prydain I gyd. Good afternoon, conference. It's great to be with you here in Brighton again as we look forward to seeing not just a Labour government in Wales but a Labour government elected across the whole of Britain. I'd like to begin, conference, by extending my thanks to Christina Rees, our Shadow Secretary of State for Wales. Sadly, she can't be with us because she's nursing a broken foot. Now, I don't think there's a bit louder. Thank you. She'll appreciate that. I don't think there's any truth in the rumour that she broke it kicking Alan Kearns around Parliament in the first week back, but we'll ask her when we see her. Chris, we wish you a speedy recovery. Secondly, let me say thank you to Jeremy for his continuing friendship and leadership. Thank you, Jeremy, for the dignity you showed in a tough general election campaign. The Tories came after you in a personal and offensive manner, and you stood up to that onslaught and led the party with great determination and defied the odds. This time last year, conference, the Tories thought they were marching to a 100-seat majority. Right now, they're scared of their own shadows, let alone another general election. What a turnaround that is. Now, conference, when I heard Theresa May was giving a speech in Florence, I thought, how apt. Not so much in relation to the Renaissance, but more with a thought to the works of that great medieval poet Dante. Stay with me here. Stay with me here. Because it's been clear to me for some time that the Department for Exiting the European Union regard the Divine Comedy as some kind of instruction manual. That masterpiece imagines in glorious detail the dark and terrifying journey through the 9 circles of hell. Well, we've been going on our own journey for 15 months and still remain in the first circle of hell, limbo. It's a remarkable achievement. But then Dante did have Virgil as his spiritual guide. David Davis has got Nigel Farage. Now, conference, that book is worth a read as Brexit reinterpreted. At one point, at the close of chapter 21, Dante witnesses a demon mobilizing his troops by using an ass as a trumpet, which goes to show that every century has its own Boris. Conference, this week in Wales, we mark the 20th anniversary of the vote to establish devolution in our country. It was a turning point for Wales and a turning point for our party. The list of achievements is one of which we can be proud, and it belongs not just to Welsh Labour, but to the whole party and movement who made devolution possible. Unemployment in Wales routinely lower than the UK average. More jobs, better jobs, Welsh Labour delivering in government. Wales, the first country to move to a deemed consent model for organ donation in the UK. There are people alive because of that change in the law. Better laws, saving lives. Welsh Labour delivering in government. Free school breakfasts in primary schools, giving children the best start of the day. Giving parents a helping hand. Giving teachers the attention they deserve in the classroom. Welsh Labour delivering in government. The attainment gap between better off and poorer pupils in England and Scotland continues to grow. In Wales, it continues to shrink. A fair start for everyone in Wales, no matter where you're born. That's Welsh Labour delivering in government. Our university students in Wales getting the best deal anywhere in the UK. And who gets the best deal of all? Those who can least afford university. That's Welsh Labour delivering in government. But it's not just about policy, it's about having a voice and someone to fight your corner. And this week, I give a cautious welcome to the news that Tata Steel and ThyssenKrupp have entered the first stage of a merger deal, a deal that should safeguard sites and thousands of jobs in Wales. Now, conference, does anyone honestly think that without devolution, without a Welsh Labour government determined to take measures to save that industry, putting money on the table when others looked away, that those steel jobs would still be in Wales today? Would the Tories have knocked down walls for the people of Port Talbot, Shotton, Newport or Llanelli? We all know the answer to that. They would have let our people down. But with our colleagues in the trades unions, our MPs, our AMs and our local councillors, Welsh Labour stood up for the steel industry. And we did what those banners and badges asked us to do. We saved our steel. Conference, we're proud to work with our trades union colleagues in government, because together we've built a genuine social partnership, and together we're making Wales a fair work nation. And Conference, earlier this month, our Trades Union Act received royal assent. That means that the pernicious attempts of the Tory government to attack workers' rights in Wales have been disapplied. And once again, workers in Wales have the protections we fought so hard to achieve, protections everybody deserves. That's what we do in government as Labour. Because devolution has given Wales a voice. And with Welsh Labour, that voice speaks the language of social justice, fairness, good work, decent pay, and thriving communities. And devolution has given us something else, a newfound confidence. It's something I see every day in young people, in work, and in our schools and colleges. So where has that confidence come from? Well, if you could personalise it, you'd have to give credit to my predecessor, Rhodri Morgan. Now, as you know, Rhodri passed away earlier this year, leaving behind a fantastic roller coaster of a political career, a wonderful family, and an ocean of anecdotes. In May, the Welsh Parliament held the closest thing Wales will ever have to a state funeral, and we gave Rhodri the perfect send-off. It started late, it finished even later, but in between, there was a fantastic mix of poetry, politics, sport, laughter, and tears. And at the end, no one really thought about Rhodri the politician, but Rhodri is a big-hearted, intelligent and inquisitive man who loved his family above all else, a fine role model who we all miss. Rhodri always said that Labour did best when it managed to mix together the mushy peas of old Labour with the guacamole of new Labour. Now, I used to see what Rhodri brought in for lunch, and I can tell you when it came to culinary combinations, he wasn't always the person you'd go to. But on the politics, as so often, he was absolutely right. He was absolutely right about the need for our party to reflect all sections of our membership and all parts of this country. That was the key to our success in Wales in the last 3 elections. When the party at UK level was under serious pressure, our unique and united Welsh Labour identity meant we remained relevant and competitive in the Assembly and local elections when others struggled. It was the unity that gave us success against the odds. And when, in the last days of the general election, the whole party surged, it meant we in Wales were starting from a higher baseline and as a result achieved 50% of the vote for the first time in 16 years. Our identity as a party is robust, authentic and complementary to the UK party as a whole. And just as a country we wouldn't countenance a rollback of our devolution settlement, there can be no question of Welsh Labour's long-fought-for and hard-won voice being diluted as we look to the future of our party. I know that both Jeremy and Tom understand this, and I do welcome their unwavering support for Wales. Because, Conference, we know Labour works best when we work together. Together, we fought a highly successful general election campaign, not just holding on to what we had, but winning back seats for Labour. Vale of Clwyd. According to the bookmakers, the Tories were 5-1 on to win. Result, a Labour gain. It was a great pleasure for me personally to see Chris Ruan back as an MP. Gower, according to the bookies, the Tories were 9-1 on to win. Result, Labour gain. Well done, Tonia. Cardiff North, Tories were 9-1 on. Result, Labour gain. Well done, Anna. because working together, we've exposed the Tories on broken promise after broken promise, on rail electrification in the north and the south. And we know what's coming next. They'll axe Swansea's tidal lagoon. But because Welsh Labour is in government, there are things we can do. We're already delivering on our manifesto promises. 100,000 new, good quality, all-age apprenticeships. The most generous childcare offer for working parents anywhere in the UK. And 20,000 more affordable homes. And we can also deliver on priorities for the future of our NHS. There is no privatisation of the NHS in Wales. And whilst we have a Welsh Labour government, there will be no privatisation of the NHS in Wales. Only in Wales are ambulance crews hitting their targets because we've worked with the service and designed a better way of working. And next week we'll publish new guidance for our pioneering legislation on safe nurse staffing levels in Wales. Conference, Wales is the first country in Europe to legislate on nurse staffing levels. And I'm proud that Wales has taken the lead in this area, empowering nurses and ensuring the resources are there to care for our patients. And it was great to see that legislation was promised by the party in the UK manifesto in May. We're already delivering that in Wales. We look forward to seeing it delivered across the whole of the UK. And working together, we're making our communities better, fairer places to live. When Caroline Harris MP began her brave and dignified campaign to end child burial charges in the UK, we in Wales didn't wait for the Tory government to act. We said, yes, that's the right thing to do. And as a result, the Welsh Labour government has announced the abolition of all child burial charges in Wales. That's what we can do when we work together. And the country needs us to work together more than ever before as we fight the fundamentalists pursuing a hard Brexit. We're fighting tooth and nail against the Tory power grab dressed up as the EU withdrawal bill. It shows up their government as simply incapable of listening to other people's views or respecting their legitimate interests. In other words, as lacking the basic skills needed to negotiate successfully. And looking at the way in which they are failing the country in their negotiations with the EU, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. I'm delighted at the support we are receiving from Labour colleagues in Parliament, fighting this real threat to devolution as we've known it for the past 20 years. I'm also incredibly proud of the work we've done together already. Our team in Cardiff Bay has worked hand in glove with Keir Starmer and the front bench in developing our Brexit policies. And as a result of that work, we now have a sensible, evidence-based, economically sound set of principles and ideas that can see this country through Brexit in an orderly manner. Contrast that with the spectacle of the Tory approach, the various Tory approaches. Does anyone really know who speaks for them on Brexit anymore? Where is the Prime Minister of this country gone? Well, she was in Florence last Friday, we know that. But if before the general election, the country felt as if it had a robot for Prime Minister, we'd now be forgiven for thinking we have a hologram for Prime Minister. She went to the country and asked for the support of our communities for a hard Brexit, and the country said no. And the country said no to some other things as well. Our older people said no to being taken for granted. Wales said no to being shortchanged. Scotland said no to independence. And crucially, our young people said no to being ignored. They said through their votes what we all feel. Britain deserves better than this. This country deserves a Labour government in Westminster. A government that actually cares about the future. And I know that the people of Wales need that more than ever. Under the Tories, we've had to take £1 billion out of our public services in Wales. That's the annual budget of the entire North Wales Health Board. Our communities are resilient, but they're being unfairly punished. And with Theresa May and the Tories, they'll be asked to give yet more. To give up their livelihoods, their libraries, their leisure centres, and their right to a fair deal, to give up hope. Well, conference, enough is enough. It's time for hope. It's time for Labour in Wales and in Westminster, standing up for Wales, working for fairness, working together, winning together. That's the future the country hopes for, and that's the country we can deliver. Conference, we have a general election to win, and we can win it if we work together for Wales and together for Britain. Thank you.
If I could have 2 minutes of your time. There was to be a Northern Ireland report, but for some reason it has dropped off the agenda. Now, we're here campaigning from the Northern Ireland Labour Party to talk about the fact that we are not allowed to stand candidates in elections. Now, we just
Can
heard...
we leave it for tomorrow and leave it for Conference Arrangements Committee?
Yes,
Thank you.
Just using it for a minute. I just want you to remember that that's the situation. We have a large party in Northern Ireland and we're not allowed to stand. Thank you.
So I'm now going to hand the chair to Glenys Wilmot for the remainder of this session.
Right, conference. You know, for a moment, I didn't see who came in. I thought it was someone famous. Conference, we're going to spend most of the rest of this session discussing the general election and party organisation. I'd like now to invite our General Secretary, Ian McNichol, to address us. Ian.
Thank you, Conference. And it's a great pleasure to be back here in Brighton. That's Labour-run, Tory-free Brighton and Hove. Being back in Brighton reminds me of so many Labour movement conferences. TUC, the Labour Party, and my union, the GMB. But But there's someone on my mind this week, someone we're missing, and that's Mary Turner. Mary was the very best of the Labour movement, passionate about social justice, driven by her values. We miss her, I miss her, and we honour her memory. Like Mary, I've always believed there is power in a union. When I was an organiser for the GMB, I saw firsthand that without unions, the lives of working people could be hell. Without trade unions, no limits on working hours, no rest breaks, no paid holidays, no safety on the building site or factory floor. But there's something more. Mary Turner knew it. Trade unionism can take you so far, but only Labour governments can transform the lives of the many. Our founders knew it in 1900. That's why they started the Labour Party in the first place. to form governments and deliver policies, the welfare state, the United Nations, comprehensive education, the open university, a national minimum wage, sure start for our children, and the greatest achievement of any government, the National Health Service. So this week in Brighton, let us focus on what the next Labour government, led by Jeremy Corbyn, will achieve. How our generation will leave a lasting legacy, like the generations of 45, 64 and 97. Let us start with the results of the last election. Despite losing the election, we outperformed expectations and secured 41% of the vote, an increase of 9 points since 2015. And whilst we should not forget the 6 Labour seats we lost, we can be proud of a net gain of 30 seats, mostly from the Tories, in seats such as Battersea, Bedford, Plymouth, Cardiff North, Portsmouth South. We won in Canterbury, where we took the seat held continuously by the Tories and their like since 1295. And Labour is back in Scotland, winning 7 seats, 6 gains from the SNP. And isn't it marvellous to see so many more women elected? The highest proportion of the Parliamentary Labour Party in our history. More Labour MPs from black and minority ethnic backgrounds, more Labour MPs with disabilities, more LGBT Labour MPs. A Parliamentary Labour Party that looks like the UK, modern, diverse and grounded in reality. This was an election where our online campaign came into its own. Labour had more than 1.2 million shares on Facebook. We reached over 29 million unique Facebook users. In the last 2 days of the campaign alone, 7.3 million individuals viewed our Get Out the Vote message on Snapchat. We used professional, targeted, high-quality digital communications to support local campaigns, to register people to vote, to guide activists to the key seats, and to get out the vote. It was a brilliant campaign, and we should applaud all those involved in it. So victory next time is in sight. The campaign to win started within hours of the election result. Over the summer, Jeremy completed his 50-seat tour, campaigning in Bournemouth, Blackpool, Bolton, Crawley, Carlisle, Copeland, from Hastings to Harrow, from Southampton to Southport, Aberconwy to Arfon, Glasgow, Rutherglen, the Western Isles, Kirkcaldy, Edinburgh, and all the points in between. Well, thousands of members have been out on the doorsteps of Britain. New members joining with veterans, young with old. Now that's what I call real progress. That's what I call real momentum. A united party on the road to victory. Let me turn to the Labour Party staff. It's a daily privilege and honour to work with the dedicated and talented party staff. They're the best in the business. In the smoke and heat of an election campaign, there is no one better to have on your side. In every one of the speeches I've delivered as your General Secretary, I've talked about the vital role of party members, not just cogs in an election machine, but as year-round advocates, developing policies and changing communities. This conference, the National Executive Committee, thanks you for everything that you do. Today, I'm proud to announce we have 570,000 members, making the British Labour Party the largest political party in Europe. We're picking up council seats in places such as North Somerset, Thanet, Suffolk and Airdrie. In Worthing, just up the coast from here, our candidate Becky Cooper won a council seat for Labour for the first time in 41 years. Yeah. Where Jeremy was campaigning yesterday. And next year, we have local elections across England with millions going to the polls. We're working hard to get our parliamentary candidates in the places we need to win. We will continue the work of the Joe Cox Women in Leadership programme, which has already seen 2 of its alumni elected to Parliament. And while I'm happy to debate it, I will not give an inch nor make an apology for using all-women shortlists to get even more Labour women into Parliament. In every one of my reports to this conference, I've talked about the steady improvement in the party's finances. It's taken a decade of hard work, but we are today mortgages-free, debt-free and loan-free. So this is today's Labour, growing in size and confidence, financially secure, reaching into the Tory heartlands in contention for the next government. Labour has the leadership in Jeremy and the manifesto this country is crying out for on education, on health, on social care, on crime, on transport, on the environment, on housing, and especially on Brexit. And in Europe, let me say how much we value the work of our colleagues in the European Parliament and the leadership of Glenis Wilmot. Glenis, thank you for your service to our movement, party and country. Thank you. Now, the Tories may be in office, but they have no mandate, no majority, no unity and no authority. But that doesn't stop them. They think they're born to rule. So who's going to stop them? Not the Lib Dems, not UKIP, not the SNP, and definitely not the DUP. Who's going to stop them? Since the election, thanks to the surge in our support, we have prevented the Tories from legalising fox hunting, building more grammar schools, scrapping free school meals, ending the winter fuel payments and imposing a dementia tax. Labour has dumped the Tory manifesto in the shredder and left Theresa May with nothing to say. I said at the start how much I value the trade unions and value the advances we have made for British workers. But imagine if all those hard-won gains are flushed down the drain of a Tory Brexit. Imagine the Britain our children and grandchildren will inherit. Only Labour under Jeremy can deliver a Brexit which looks after the many. Finally, conference, I hope you enjoy your time in Brighton and Hove, a shining, diverse European city, everything the Tories hate. I propose only one improvement. It's a small thing. It's not too much to ask. Let's make the trains safer, more secure, more reliable and run on time. Let's nationalise Southern Rail. Enjoy conference. Thank you. Thank you. Each year at annual conference, we have our Best Practice Awards highlighting the new, innovative and exciting work of our local constituency Labour parties, candidates, elected representatives, socialist societies, member-led and affiliated organisation in their campaigning and community work. There are 6 winners, and we'll quickly go through those and then get them up for the photographs with Jeremy, Ian, and myself. For our Best Labour Party campaign category, we have joint winners this year. The first winner is Chester Labour Party. Come on, Chester. I'll keep on talking to get the photograph. The campaign that Chester ran, A Job for Everyone, was just fantastic. And during the election campaign, they went from a 93 majority in 2015 to a 9,176. Right.
Let's hear it for Chester.
Our second joint winner for this category is Batley and Spen Labour Party. Following the tragic murder of Joe Cox, the campaign that Tracy Braben and the constituency ran was absolutely fantastic. Tracy. And the GMB. Brilliant. Thank you. Well done. Well done. For our Best Digital Campaign Award, I'm pleased to announce Ipswich Labour Party are the winners. 240,000 Facebook adverts. Come on up.
How many hits did you have? Nearly 14 million.
Brilliant. Thank you. For our Labour in Local Government Award, the NEC wanted to celebrate Mayor Ros Jones and the Doncaster Labour Group for the work and the campaigning that they put in. Ros. Okay, Doncaster Labour Group, come on up. Okay, thanks.
So she should be too. Remember that great campaign event we had for the mayoral campaign? I really enjoyed that.
We're having a branch meeting up here. Okay, I am maybe moving on. Our next award is for engaging members and supporters. And it's a fantastic, huge amount of work that went into this, building up to the general election. And it gives me great pleasure to award Canterbury Labour Party and Rosie Duffield. Go on, Rosie.
Canterbury.
Yep. Well done. Brilliant. And our final category is the Del Singh Memorial Best Practice Award for Socialist Societies, affiliates and member-led organisation, which this year is awarded to the Jewish Labour Movement, JLM, who have organised some brilliant campaigning events. Come on up. Jeremy? Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes the Best Practice Awards conference. Shortly, very shortly, we'll be hearing from Ian Lavery, our National Campaign Coordinator and fantastic party chair. But before we do, we have a short video introduction.
The Gower constituency is a very wide and diverse constituency. It was a Labour seat since 1906. The people of Gower were very disappointed when it was won by a Tory in 2015.
The thing that everybody knows about Canterbury is the cathedral. But we've also got a very big, very well-known university, and we attract people from all over the continent for a variety of different courses. Obviously we've got the older residents who've been here and grown up here for a long time.
Regardless of what people said about being a marginal, lots of people said to me, you're not going to win this seat. I really kind of ignored all of that actually, and I told people we were absolutely going to win this seat. I think one of the things that I had was a very strong social media campaign, and that the reach in terms of what that was able to do was really phenomenal.
I was at home at the time of the exit polls. They kept on saying, the Tories are saying that they've held on to Gower and Cardiff North, and I just thought, right, that's it.
I was as shocked as everyone else on the night. So Julian supported things that aren't really in sync with this town anymore. People on the doorstep were saying the word manifesto. I like your manifesto, we've read what you're saying, and I thought, I've never heard that on the doorsteps before.
I remember coming to the count and, you know, boxes were out and people were saying, it was 50-50 at that stage actually.
But the best moment was when the press were after me and they were saying, it looks like you've won the seat.
We increased the majority. It's the biggest majority since 1997 even. And that's sheer down to tremendous hard work of every single person that came out.
And at that minute, it really was a hands on the face moment where I realised I'd won, and it was fantastic.
When we got to the count itself, later on that evening, the Conservatives were very quiet and very subdued, which is the first I've seen them like that, actually.
So I remember when they finally sort of declared it. It was amazing. I think the other reason it was really amazing is it's taken 100 years since Sophie Dilip Singh to elect the first Sikh female MP.
We needed Jeremy Corbyn's Labour movement. We have to have this moving forward. We've got to reset our socialist values, and we've got to get the Tories out, because this is a change that people want and need.
It's so important that Parliament reflects the people that it serves, and it's really beginning to feel like that.
So it's so essential that we carry on campaigning, get a Labour government for those that need us the most. If we can do it here, we've shown that the impossible is in fact possible. So please get active and please believe.
Conference, colleagues, brothers and sisters, we nearly did it. We really did nearly do it. Who would have thought that this time last year we'd be here in Brighton, having been just a hair's breadth away from the keys to Downing Street. The snap election that Mrs. May said time after time after time that wouldn't happen, saw us do something which political pundits said was impossible. We won the support of nearly 13 million people, the best vote for Labour in nearly 20 years. We achieved the biggest increase in Labour share vote since 1945. And what's important is we denied the Tories an overall majority. At conference, we turned the tide in Scotland, gaining 6 seats. And let me say this, 6 fantastic new MPs from north of the border, and there's much and more to come when the next election is called. We achieved our best share of the vote in Wales for over 20 years. At conference, we succeeded in changing the political landscape. We changed political debate here in the UK. And just over a year ago, Theresa May was swept to the leadership of the Tories and the leadership of the country without any democratic election whatsoever. And so emboldened was Theresa May that the architect of austerity, George Gideon Osborne, was kicked out of a cabinet like a dog in the night. Comrades, that was absolutely fantastic. And what a contrast to now, of course. Denied a mandate by the great British public. She's so embattled that she's being led a merry dance by bungling Boris. Bojo, as his name's called. It's so chaotic that the Tory members believe the best choice to replace Theresa May is Jacob Rees-Mogg. Listen, can anybody in here imagine JRM leading this country? Can I see anybody putting their hands up, by the way? You know, it would be funny if it wasn't so serious. But the danger really is the potential that many of our people could pay for the Tory chaos with jobs, with their jobs and their employment. And we cannot allow it to happen. And that's why it's so important that we build on the achievements of our election campaign. And that's why we must continue to campaign. So when the next election is called, we're in pole position. We're in pole position to grab those keys for Downing Street. Now this conference, this is no pipe dream. This is political reality. As I said before, we were nearly there. The Tories and most of the media expected the Labour majorities to crumble and for the party to be destroyed as an electoral force. And on election night, Andrew Marr, that left-wing journalist, saying no one expected Corbyn to be such a good campaigner. Andrew, where have you been all Jeremy's life? Conference, Jeremy would be the first one to say that the campaign wasn't a one-person show. But listen, what an exciting campaign to be involved in. And a huge thank you to everyone who knocked on the doors, handed out leaflets. A huge thank you to the staff, volunteers, all who came together as one team at Southside. From the trade unions who mobilised their members to the teams and our offices in Wales and Scotland, in every region, everyone deserves to give themselves a huge pat on the back. And a special thanks to those who came along to our rallies across the UK. I was lucky enough to be part of these wonderful rallies with Jeremy. The one in Gateshead, on Tyneside. I cannot begin to tell you how proud I was looking out at 10,000 people who had been standing there for hours and hours in the pouring down rain with a time on me back, promising to transform society for the many and not the few. And thanks to everyone, because we made politics exciting again. And people contributed to an atmosphere of change. As Ian said in his speech earlier, we came of age digitally in this election, and there's some fantastic statistics to speak for themselves. They're in the report, but I will mention just a few. We had huge increases in our social media reach. For example, Labour's Facebook likes increased 44% to nearly 1 million. And Jeremy's rose to 31% to 1.2 million likes on Facebook. We had a fantastic voter registration campaign that saw more than 2 million visit the Electoral Commission's voter registration site. There was 4 million visitors to Labour's website and 8 million people watching our party political broadcast on the NHS on TV. That's 2 million more viewers than the Great British Bake Off. And listen, none of this could have been done without the finances to match the Tories. Clean money from our own members and clean money from the trade union movement. Colleagues, in just 6 weeks, our supporters gave nearly £4 million in donations. Ordinary members, averaging about £19. That's more than 250,000 donations. And that's on top of the 6.2 million donated by our fantastic trade union affiliates. Comrades, this campaign was positive, it was hopeful, and it was funded by the many, not the few. And we must contrast this with the Tories' campaign. A campaign funded by a handful of super-rich donors, with a leader who was hiding from the voters, and a manifesto that failed even to give the electorate the courtesy of some costings. And as the polls narrowed, the bankruptcy of the Tories was plain to see. All it could do was escalate their scurrilous personal attacks, above all on Jeremy, on John, and on Diane. It was absolutely disgraceful. They need to be brought to book. Conference, the Labour party's had a massive impact since the election. 2 weeks after the election, on the back foot, the Tories' Queen's speech made no mention at all of the wide variety of promises they had in their manifesto. Scrapping the winter fuel allowance for millions of pensioners, of ditching the triple lock, protecting the value of pensions. And can you remember the dementia tax on social care, ditched immediately because of the actions of the Labour Party? And what gets me, Conference, what really upsets me is the stealing the food from the mouths of our primary school children. What a disgrace! There wasn't any mention of new grammar schools or of them banning fox hunting. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine, Conference? If this is what we can achieve in opposition, can you imagine what we could do, what we could achieve if we had those keys to number 10? We would start building a Britain for the people of this nation. We had a fantastic manifesto introducing a £10 living wage by 2020. Fantastic for hard-working, ordinary people in this country. Banning 0-hour contracts. Introducing free school meals for all primary school children. And scrapping tuition fees and reinstating maintenance awards. We would give the NHS the money that it needs, and we would tackle the crisis in social care. And we would scrap the public sector pay cap. Did anybody see Theresa May on the Marr show? When Marr asked the Prime Minister of this country why nurses were using food banks and that had a 14% reduction in their wages since 2010. And Theresa May, the Prime Minister of this country, said, well, using food banks is a complex issue. What a load of nonsense, conference. It's not a complex issue. They're not just being paid enough. Simple as that. We would be putting the trade union rights at the heart of the Labour Party agenda. And unlike the Tories, everything we promised in the manifesto was fully costed. And unlike the Tories, we also have a plan for rebuilding this smashed economy. We have a plan for investing in sustainable growth, for investing to create the wealth and decent jobs that would underpin a fairer society. The Tories have been and are continuing to give away tens of billions of pounds through cuts in corporation tax, through cuts in capital gains tax, and in a whole array of other taxes, continuing to give tax breaks for big business and the very wealthy. They say it's to incentivise investment, but that hasn't happened. In every single year of the last 7 years under the Tories, capital investment as a percentage of GDP has been lower than the average under the last Labour government. So, conference, the Tory tax breaks for the rich are not only unfair, they're also not working. Colleagues, conference, this is why we cannot afford to rest on our laurels. Denying the Tories their majority was a great achievement, but it isn't any substitute for winning power. You know, there was 13 million people voted for a message of hope in June. And with Corbyn's Labour Party, millions more can be won over to our cause. We've got to explain to people it doesn't have to be like this. There's better and different alternatives. And by stepping up our campaigning and mobilising our membership, 570,000 members, come on! We can take our message to every city, every town, and every village across this country. Conference, a united party, living off our own values of solidarity, will transform society. It's high time we invested in people and began to instill in this country hope and aspiration. We're heading in the right direction. The Tories are clinging on by their fingertips. The government's propped up by bunging the DUP in excess of £1 billion from that magic money tree, which we often get criticised for having. You know, we'll not forget. We'll not forget, and we'll not forgive the Tories for their action. Conference, I'm sure that you'll agree with me that the Labour Party are a government in waiting. We're looking to transform the lives of the many and not the few. So a message. Theresa, Jacob, Boudreaux, bring it on! Thank you.
What can I say? Thank you, Ian. Right, we're now going to take the votes on today's debates. First on Justice and Home Affairs Policy Commission report. Can I see all those in favour of accepting the report? All those against? Thank you, Conference, that's accepted. Next, the Housing, Local Government and Transport Policy Commission report. Can I see all those in favour? And against? Again, that's carried. Thank you. Finally, the Environment, Energy and Culture Policy Commission report. Can I see all those in favour of accepting the report? All those against? Thank you, Conference. That is also carried. Thank you. Conference, I'll now ask the Chief Scrutineer, Danisha Patel, to present the results of the Contemporary Issues ballot. Where is she? Ah.
Thank you, Chair, Conference. Danisha Patel, Chief Scrutineer. I will now give the result of the priorities ballot, which determines the contemporary motions that will be debated at this year's conference. The National Executive Committee has agreed that for contemporary resolutions, the 4 subject areas achieving the greatest percentage of votes cast in the CLP section and the 4 achieving the greatest percentage of votes in the trade union and other affiliate organisations section will be timetabled. However, should any subject area be selected in both sections then the subject area with the next highest ranking vote for the appropriate section will be added to the list, ensuring that the net result will be that 8 resolutions are selected, 4 by affiliate organisations and 4 by CLPs. Other arrangements for ballot remain as previously advertised. I'll announce the voting for the constituency section of the priorities ballot as the actual number of votes cast. So, access and education, 15,879. Learn Direct, 2,385. Growth and Investment, 6,807. Public Sector Pay, 12,333. Workers' Rights, 13,486. NHS, 187,723. Social Care, 145,613. Grenfell Tower, 34,564. Housing, 187,716. Rail, 120,496. Brexit, 72,660. North Korea, 1,234. And then ban conversion therapy, 4,080. Voting for the trade unions and other affiliate organisations section will also be announced as the actual number of votes cast. So, access to education, 834. Learn Direct, 418. Growth and Investment, 1,964,438. Public Sector Pay, 1,983,385. Workers' Rights, 1,965,824. NHS, 157,782. Social care, 121,328. Grenfell Tower, 2,009,374. Housing, 159,273. Rail, 2,485. Brexit, 160,859. North Korea, 15,000. And ban conversion therapy, 15,000. Therefore, the 8 topics that will be timetabled for debate are as follows: Grenfell Tower, public sector pay, workers' rights, growth and investment, NHS, housing, social care, and rail. Thank you. Yay.
Thank you, Denisha. Thank you. Right, this is important, so if you want to listen carefully, compositing will take place tonight on the ground floor of the Hilton Hotel from 6:30. Stewards will be available in the hotel foyer to direct you to the right room for your meeting. At least one delegate from each organisation with a contemporary motion subject that has been successful in the priorities ballot should attend the relevant compositing meeting. The meetings will be scheduled to the following timetable. Please take note of the time, room, name of your... Can you please be quiet? Because some people will need to hear this. Please take note of the time and room name for your organised subjects grouping. I'm going to read these twice. Don't forget they begin at 6:30. Grenfell Tower in the Balmoral Room. So that's Grenfell Tower in the Balmoral Room. Growth and Investment, the Edinburgh Room. Growth and Investment, the Edinburgh Room. Social Care in the Buckingham Room. That's the Buckingham Room for Social Care. Public Sector Pay in the Gloucester Room. Public Sector Pay, the Gloucester Room. Composite meetings beginning at 7:30. NHS in the Balmoral Room. That's the NHS in the Balmoral Room. Workers' rights in the Edinburgh Room. Again, workers' rights in the Edinburgh Room. Housing in the Buckingham Room. Again, housing in the Buckingham Room. And finally, rail in the Gloucester Room. That's rail in the Gloucester Room. Thank you very much. Now, can I just say, I think it's been a good day today. Thank you all very much. Conference stands adjourned until 9:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you.